It was the perfect amount for her class voucher to cover, and the right amount of time also. Joan Grohl went and took the class and got all of her money together, then went to the semi dealership. A transportation company had recently gone out of business due to transportation crashing again, and there was the perfect truck there waiting for her. It had a sleeper cab and a container already on the back that was built in. The sleeper cab even had a door into the container area, and the container was locked, so it was like having a second room built in. The dealership was in a relatively hard spot. Joan Grohl's credit had a giant do not sell mark on it due to the stupid foreclosure. Another issue is that the dealership knew that the market was tanking and he needed to sell the truck to someone, and he hadn't sold trucks in a while. He figured if Joan Grohl had a job for it somehow, that at least he would get some income. Joan Grohl was slapping down $16,000 in cash on a vehicle he couldn't easily flip. Joan Grohl had a little backup cash she had from her side projects, and she'd been saving but didn't want to show her hand. It was her emergency money, and since she didn't use banks, it was all in cash. If anyone found out, she could easily be robbed or worse. They talked about it a minute, and there was only one stipulation. It was that he had to throw in a tracking device on the vehicle in case Joan Grohl didn't pay, so Repo could find it easily. Joan Grohl agreed and had essentially a brand new truck. It had a giant sleeper area and a whole big empty trailer for her. She took everything out of her car, put it in the sleeper area of the truck, and signed the car over to him. They shook hands, and Joan Grohl headed out. Joan Grohl could have went into the store and built something in a few minutes to find the tracker and remove it, but she was trying to build trust after all. Joan Grohl immediately drove her new vehicle back to the closed-down Radio Smash and the bistro to hopefully find someone to show her new truck off to and get her some free Wi-Fi. Joan Grohl really didn't have any friends, so that was her plan, and she was proud of her new catch. Then she was going to drive to the library to look at pamphlets to try to find work. Upon arriving to the closed-down Radio Smash, the manager was there with the door already open. There was a closeout sign in huge letters. Nobody had told Joan Grohl what was happening to all the merchandise in this event. The store had been locked for the entire week she took the class. To make matters more stressful on Joan Grohl, the whole entire shipment had been delivered directly in response to an order made from her side business, which included enough parts for almost 100 drones. It was simply sitting in the back in boxes on pallets, with her having no legal access. Apparently orders from the top were to liquidate everything despite all the money she was making in the company, and she had got there right as the liquidation was to start. Joan Grohl immediately hopped out and saw that everything was marked down to like 95%. She'd been planning on telling the manager her plans for selling drones out of the storefront for some profit sharing and maybe even get her own little nook in the store. Especially now she was facing the parts potentially getting parsed out to who knows, maybe even competitors. She'd be completely driven out of her own market. Her business plans would be impossible to recover. She told the manager immediately that she would give him $500 cash if he would take the sign down and forget this ever happened. At that moment, she was so thankful she had spared herself a tiny bit of cash from her new vehicle purchase. He thought about it and seemed to have a realization that, like literally, none of this was being tracked, inventoried, or entered into any system. The two went inside and she handed him $500 cash and 20s on the spot. He scooped it up before anyone could see. He took the sign down, and she loaded not only her order, but the entire store of merchandise. This included most of the removable shelving and all the security cameras and wiring that had been dismantled into the back of her new semi. Without another word, she drove off before he could say anything. She never saw him again. Joan Grohl spent the next few weeks hopping from spot to spot in parking lots at night and going back to making drones for people. She made her money back on her first drone and had enough equipment to make plenty more. After selling a few drones, she drove her truck back to the dealership and made a few payments. He was extremely happy, but didn't ask how she got the money. He also got into her truck for her and removed the tracking device that was installed to find the truck if the payments defaulted. Unfortunately, his store closed down a few weeks later. She showed up to make a payment one day and everything was gone. Joan Grohl wondered where this left the ownership of the truck, but decided to head back. Joan Grohl had given him her address as the bistro next to the Radio Smash, and that was where she'd been picking up her mail. She completely filled the sleeper cab cabinets with food from her state food card. One day the bistro let her know that she got a strange letter in the mail from a car dealership. She came in to get some breakfast and they said, "Here's your mail." She only ever got like 2 letters a month, so it was really weird. She opened it, and it was the deed to her truck and a note. May this truck bring you good fortune. You seem like a go-getter. Good luck out there. Truck dealer guy. She owned the truck outright. She couldn't believe it. Things seemed like they were going so well all of a sudden. In celebration, she went and dug through the back of her truck until she found a CV and set it up. She wasn't going to be a real trucker, but she could at least learn to act like one. She listened in for a little while, and in no time she was slinging the gibberish back and forth like it was nothing. Drone Girl used her spare money to buy many 5-gallon cans of fuel for her truck and fill them up as was convenient. She liked being able to drive without stopping unnecessarily. It wasn't safe for girls, and it definitely wasn't safe for her truck. She didn't have much means to defend herself except for a trucker's tool that was like an all-in-one tool for her trucks. Every trucker had one, and they were the go-to for self-defense and truck maintenance. She also had a fire extinguisher that she took from work, but it wasn't much use in self-defense either. Life was okay. She'd sell a drone here or there, or do more of a freelance video, but then all the truckers started talking about a storm coming. They said to get out of town for a few days. It had only been a few weeks, but she'd never heard them talk like that before. She had learned to trust them with everything else, so she trusted them with this also. She got the heck out of town. Quiet peacefulness, parking lot, night of the collapse. There was no chatter on the radio. Drone Girl had filled up all of her fuel tanks, like the truckers said to do. She'd heard rumors, most of them completely left western Washington and western Oregon. None of them would go to California. She felt like something bigger was brewing. Maybe they're just being paranoid. But the more that Drone Girl thought about it, the more she realized it wouldn't matter either way. She checked the weather, and there was a storm coming. Depending on the weather app or the radio station, it was a big one or a small one. That would be landing somewhere around Seattle. Somewhere estimating it to be the biggest storm to hit in recorded history for the West Coast. Drone Girl had seen footage from the East Coast a few prior years before she lost her TV and house. She remembered the devastation and realized even though she could theoretically survive it in her truck, if she didn't get flooded, in all likelihood she wouldn't be able to leave. Driving through flooded areas was really dangerous because it didn't take much to lift a vehicle up and float off with it. At the end of the day, it wasn't tire size or height, it was weight. Her truck weighed quite a bit and had a sealed floor with exhaust routed through a special conduit that came out the roof. Drone Girl had realized it looked super cool, but not up until this moment understood how important it could be with lowland roads washing out. She may have to escape. Drone Girl mused being able to surveil the footage with her drones and maybe how it would help find survivors, so she sat in the parking lot close enough to be able to help do that, but far enough away to actually survive impact. She'd be no good to anyone if she was incapacitated and stuck in the storm. All she had to do was patiently wait for the storm to pass, then she could go in and help. Maybe some of that sweet FEMA disaster recovery money somehow. Those contracts were insanely huge, she'd heard, and she bet that they needed drone recon big time. Their intel on the last 2 big hurricanes had been completely bogus. She slipped into an extended nap in her super comfy truck seat. She had an amazing bed in the sleeper, but the chair worked great as well. She was asleep when the parking lot silently went out. When the electricity in the parking lot silently went out. Chapter 10. What to do parking lot morning after collapse. Drone Girl woke up and rubbed her eyes. She didn't notice anything weird. Things were quieter than usual, but it was quiet last night also. It seemed like quiet and storms went together. She went in the back and did her morning hygiene routine. She heard some chatter on the radio, but not much. Hold on. She heard some chatter on the radio, but not very much, and it didn't make sense. She came back out and tried to listen, but it was quiet again on the radio. What she didn't notice is were all the lights were out around her. Nobody was coming to work. She brought out her paper maps that she always kept on her and reviewed the plan in her mind. More chatter on the radio, things that didn't make sense. She responded, "Hey, what's the sitch on the rebel territory? How'd it fare?" More gibberish about anarchy and some new group taking control. Like their own version of martial law. Then the anarchy suddenly dissipating. No trucks in or out. You guys need more sleep. Joke's over. How'd the city do? Safe to head in? Someone was broadcasting far off. If you know what's good for you, you'll get out. Come back. Get out from where? Why? What's going on? But there was nothing. They must have all got out overnight. She guessed they went around the city and headed straight for eastern Washington. If they'd headed north or south, she could have still been able to hear them from where she was. She flicked to every channel, but nobody was there. She regretted not having the ham bands on her main rig. Drone Girl was suddenly feeling nervous and out in the open. She was next to a grocery store, and it wasn't opened, but it was time to be opened. She'd wanted to get some fresh coffee beans because she was running low. Looks like there were some people at the door wanting it to be open and being mad that it wasn't.